watching this video, you are probably almost certainly already familiar with dead internet theory. And the reason I'm willing to make that assumption is because as of now I have fewer than 100 subscribers. So if you are seeing this video, you were probably searching for other videos related to dead internet theory, or it was recommended to you from another video related to dead internet theory. But on the off chance that this reaches anyone who is not familiar, here's a summary, assuming that any of you are real. Basically, dead internet theory is a theory that a large part, if not a majority, of what we know as the World Wide Web is populated and created not by humans as we think, but by artificial intelligence. Which means that much of your interactions with people on the internet are not interactions with people, but interactions with robots, simulating the thoughts and speech patterns and activities, even videos, photos, all kinds of things that are in part or entirely fabricated. Now, what does this have to do with the Matrix? Well, this is my take on dead internet theory. And it starts with my introduction to the theory. I was introduced by a video which was a text-to-speech rendering of a post on 4chan that I saw on YouTube that was sent to me by someone I know. And the post summarized a few of this person's thoughts. And the first one was eerily close to home. It gave me chills first time that I heard it, and it gives me chills every time I hear it again, without fail. And I've rewatched the video a few times, and every time it registers in my brain that this is relatable. And the thing that they said was that they, in the early days of the World Wide Web, in the early days of 4chan particularly, they had interactions with people that felt very real, of course, but they have gone AWOL, essentially. And the reason this stirred emotions in me personally is the meme about Last Online 7 years ago. When you log into your old Xbox account or your old Facebook or whatever, and you look for your old friends, and you see that they haven't been on for 7, 10, or more years. I didn't realize it until I heard it put into words like that. But I have been having thoughts, subconscious, maybe barely conscious, in the back of my mind sort of, I don't want to say haunting me, that sounds a little dramatic, although I'm clearly going for a dramatic tone in this video, but I don't want to use the word haunting, but lingering in the back of my mind were these thoughts. Why is that meme relatable? What happened to all those people that disappeared 7 years ago? Did they lose the accounts? Did they just change interests? Did they lose interest in whatever community that was? Does that really just happen spontaneously? Did it happen back then? Was it more likely back then for people to just no longer be interested? Maybe that has changed now, and that's why it doesn't seem to make sense to me. Are they all dead? Or, and here's a branch off of the changing interests idea that goes maybe a little too off the deep end for whatever real person they're watching this video, but is it possible that a large part of the world, perhaps a majority of the world, saw the internet, the World Wide Web in particular, as a fad, a brief passing interest, and moved on, while a minority of people stayed on, and we think that we're the normal ones. And we don't realize that there's a world around us, and that the majority of the people we come in contact with are not as online as we are. Now, this may sound far-fetched. I understand that. But let me defend the theory. So, first of all, try, if you're familiar with memes or any particular internet subculture such as speedrunning, 21 Pilots, or I don't know, Louder with Crowder. These are 3 interests that I have on the World Wide Web that seem popular when I engage with them. You know, the speedrunner Summoning Salt has millions of views on multiple videos. 21 Pilots is extremely popular on YouTube. Louder with Crowder is extremely popular on YouTube. Millions of views. But if I talk to someone in real life that is outside the World Wide Web, I cannot reliably expect them to know what I'm talking about. And yet at the same time, I can talk to somebody else who's on the World Wide Web that will know at least a little bit about what I'm talking about. Memes are the best example of this. You know, you get some obscure Twitter meme like, I don't know, Uganda Knuckles, and you talk to somebody on the internet and you say, do you know the way? And anybody will remember that. But now try talking to somebody in real life about that. It's going to feel awkward because, and maybe it's just me, but I always have this fear that I'm going to reference an internet meme and it's going to sound so completely off the wall and they're not going to know what I'm talking about because it's very obscure. And I don't know why I feel that way. But it would be explained easily by the suggestion that most of the people I meet in real life are not as interested, if at all, in the World Wide Web as I am. Now, again, this may seem far-fetched, and here's another issue. Wouldn't we notice if there were two completely different cultures? One part of the world that is not online, or at least not very much, not beyond essentials such as email, and another that is completely wrapped up in it. YouTube, Twitter, Reddit, 4chan, Facebook, mobile games, etc., Google, whatever, what have you. Wouldn't we notice the difference between these two cultures? Maybe not, and this is where The Matrix comes in. In The Matrix, the movie, 1999, I believe, everyone that lives within the Matrix is completely unaware that there is another reality outside the Matrix. And yet, some people seek out something outside that Matrix, and they find Morpheus. So not everyone is completely brain dead to it. And some people are outside the Matrix, but they all know about the Matrix. So, again, maybe it's a crazy conspiracy theory, but could it be possible? Could it be possible that the people who are not online are aware of the online culture and choose not to engage? And they choose not to tell us about it? Or could it be that they aren't aware, and the reason that they don't become very aware is because of social conditioning? So that even if someone were to tell them about internet culture, they would either be interested but see it again as a fad, or they would be completely disinterested and assume that this one person is just a little weird, a little eccentric, and not realize that there truly is an entire culture. So there are three possibilities. I don't know. Maybe more than three. I don't know what all I've talked about so far. But now I want to say, what if I'm right? Now, who is Morpheus? Morpheus is anybody who recognizes, anybody who breaks away from the internet culture to find whatever may be out there. Is it possible that the entire world around me is completely different from the reality that I perceive through this matrix of the World Wide Web, through the media that is either mostly or entirely fabricated? Because how do I know that some school in California had a terrible tragedy and mass shooting if it's reported on the news? Maybe. I didn't see it. And with deepfake technology and computer graphics, CGI, you may say the technology isn't there, but I will counter with this. 3D video was not available to the public until the 1970s. The military was using it for targeting on aircraft in World War II, the 1940s, 30 years in advance. Right now, it is not even all that secret that soldiers are in some missions using eye contacts with heads-up displays built into them, like a video game, allowing them to communicate with each other, allowing them to see more information than their natural visual field can give them. And that sounds like Star Trek. And I can't give you a source for that. I'm sorry. I didn't do my research before I did this video. I'm just sitting in my basement, drinking room, and talking to my camera on a stack of coolers. But these are my thoughts that I've been having today as I've been thinking about this theory. And I felt like I should get them into video format. And I can't prove to you that I am real, because again, unless you physically experience me in real life outside of the World Wide Web, there's no way that I can do that. And there's no way for me to know that anybody who does see this video is real, because again, unless I experience you in the physical world, I can't know, because, like it or not, I believe that the technology really is there. I mean, there used to be a site called Not Jordan Peterson. It was a voice simulator created by an amateur. Well, I don't know about an amateur, but certainly not some super prestigious Army technology developer, just a civilian. And this speech synthesizer could almost perfectly replicate the voice of Dr. Jordan Peterson. So closely that Dr. Jordan Peterson himself said it creeped him out, and the person who created this site took it down because of Dr. Jordan Peterson comments. The technology is there, folks. It's just not available to us, because how can we be controlled by tools that we have at our disposal? For example, if only the government had guns, for example, then civilians would be at a disadvantage. If only the government had access to technology that can completely construct a reality that we cannot break free of, then we would be at a disadvantage. And that brings us to probably our final issue. What would the point be of all of this? Why would a government want to create a false reality? Which government is it? And that's where I will really go off the deep end here into conspiracy theory territory. But if my theory is at all correct, and assuming the worst case scenario that it is completely correct, which I am only going to assume for the sake of this video and for the sake of addressing the final issue that I have just brought up, then in that case, I would argue that It is not one government, but rather all of the governments operating under one agenda, one global, universal agenda. You may call it the Illuminati, or Marxists, or the Jesuits, or who knows, the Freemasons, the lizard people, or aliens, whatever. Demons, elites, the Jewish cabal, whatever. It doesn't matter who it is. What matters is we don't know who they are, and there's not much we can do about it. But I have been thinking about escaping the Matrix myself, just to see what the world is like without it. I would certainly have less entertainment, less information, but I would also be forced to live in a real world, a real physical world. I mean, the World Wide Web is an alternate dimension. That's what it is. I mean, you can't walk around in it. Unless you have a VR headset, then you can. You can't physically experience it. Maybe you can, I don't know. The technology, as I said, is so advanced these days, you have no idea. We could be living in a simulation right now. This whole Matrix analogy could be much more literal than I even think it could be. Elon Musk apparently seems to think so, assuming that he's real. And all of this brings me to the most likely reality that I will never escape the Matrix. I will never know what it's like to live without. Constantly immersing myself in an artificial, alternate dimension. Whether or not it is true that the world is moving in that direction, or if it is to the contrary, true that my theory, which I explained earlier, is true. The theory that it is a small portion of the world that has continued down this path while the rest of us are living in reality. Either way, I am in this matrix, and so are you. And probably neither of us are motivated enough to actually learn to live without it. As easy as it probably would be, I can't make myself do it because, for one, I need email for professional reasons. Secondly, there are no phones, mobile devices, that do email but don't do the rest of the World Wide Web. So, thanks for watching this video. Thanks for listening to my thoughts and watching me sit in my basement and drink rum and speak in a probably very slow and dramatic tone. I apologize for not speaking quicker and more enthusiastically. But as I said, I did not do much thinking or writing or researching before I made this video. And some of my sentences I know are long and convoluted. And I certainly got lost along the way at a couple points. But if you relate to any of the thoughts that I have had in this video, if you know anything about dead internet theory, if you have your own take on it, please let me know in the comments. That's all I got. Have a good night. And if you are presented with a choice between two differently colored medicinal capsules, I would advise choosing one that is redder in hue rather than the one that is bluer in hue. It's a complicated way of saying take the red pill.